It's day 39. All right, guys. Day 39. Look at my hair, look at my belly, look at everything. It's all come together. It's all coming together. It's been an off one, you know. I have been dreading sitting down here. It's day 39. I make a video every day. It is a weight loss journey in at face value, but really this is just sort of my way of getting myself into the content creation game. I'm a writer and an overall just a real problem person. And today has gone poorly. I just didn't feel good about anything I did today, and then I made a video already. I made a video about confidence, which I thought came out okay. I used a different camera angle. I kind of spent some time setting it up, and there was no audio. I recorded the audio wrong, so sometimes you just are a dumb idiot. And then I went for a run, and I did a recording of myself in between, during the walk phases of my run. And then I was hitting the record button at the wrong times. So I was recording myself when I was running and not talking, and not recording myself when I thought I was recording, because the way I had attached the microphone to the phone was like covering the color of the recording button. And that was after a day where I was like kind of building up to doing anything. And I was like, God, am I even going to get there? Am I even going to get to this? And it's tough. I'm not going to lie, making these videos are tough in the sense that the more I do, the better I want to do. And I've said this before on here, and I start to look at things less like, oh, I'll just say what's going on my mind today, and I start to think more about how I can make something that is actually good in its own right, or how I could approach something from a creative standpoint. And that's not a problem. It's just a problem when it makes up every day. It's just not tenable. So I have to take days like today. I have to take the L's of days like today, and I have to look at it and go, maybe it's just not a very good one, and people won't watch, or you won't get new subs from it, and it's a weird feeling to have. I've never had feelings like that, because this isn't usually the metric I use for whether or not something's good, But now that there's it's weird to do something where you get an instant data. And granted, a lot of the data is random, but it's weird. The whole system is weird. Anyway. The reason I discussed confidence was because last week we did a stream on Saturday, and it was nice, a couple people in there. I'm going to do another stream this Saturday around 7 p.m. Eastern time. If you want to come down, come down. The reason I discussed confidence was because someone in my last stream brought it up. Someone popped in for 2 seconds and said a few, things, and they said that they struggled with how do I stay confident, and they said they said they're inside, or they said some self-deprecating thing, and I was kind of put on the spot in the sense that it's very difficult to give an answer to that. Where does my confidence come from? Because this is a vague enigmatic thing that you can't really pin down. And when people do try to pin it down, and I'm sure you can look up on YouTube how to be confident, right? God, that even may be how you found this video. And realistically, there are always tools and tips and little cute things, but I find that most of those things generally devolve pretty rapidly into social trickery, which is not what confidence is. And on the other end of the spectrum, at their worst, videos like that are some, snake-eyed semi-sociopath trying to teach you how to speak to women and manipulate men and manipulate women, and realistically that's not going to help you. It's just going to make you a little bit more mentally ill. So it's tough to answer a question like, where do you get your confidence, with any kind of precision. Confidence is the makeup of my character, my personality. It varies depending on the environment I'm in. Obviously, right now, of course I'm confident. I'm in my home. I'm in my office. Who's going to contradict me in here? Also, it's important to keep in mind that this confidence is also a presentation of a kind. I am like this in real life, to be for better or worse, but realistically, I am not always like this. And also, I'm tuning myself down sometimes. I'm tuning myself up sometimes. I'm never consciously doing it, but I'm still doing a sort of social dance, even when I look at the camera and speak right now. For most people, confidence is something that comes to them when they're very young as a series of defense mechanisms. It should go without saying that when I walk into a room right now, it's not like everyone turns their head and goes, who's that boy? Who's coming in here now looking like that? That's not a part of my life. Nor was it a part of my life when I was, a 220-pound 10-year-old who was like 4'2" or something. Like that's never been an aspect of my life, okay? And I grew up in such living conditions that I needed to figure things out for myself pretty quickly or things would have gone very poorly. I grew up extremely poor. I grew up with an incredibly volatile living condition, and I grew up in an environment that was, frankly, unsafe. But none of that matters. All of that is to say that I had to build character, or I had to sink or swim. How about that? Character is also something, and the confidence that comes with character is also something that comes from the people around you. Much of my character is not my character. It's my brothers. It's my mom. It's my dad. It's people that I've known throughout my life, that I've met with and interacted with. Even if those interactions have been bad, everyone's influencing you in some way. When I was in high school or when I was in junior high, confidence was also just, obviously one form of a defense mechanism. You have to develop ways to navigate the complexity of any social situation when you look kind of ghoulish in an environment that's incredibly vain, right? High school is not a place where people are generally taking things for much beyond face value, and you have to kind of display your worth in whatever way you can. Fortunately for me, I've always been a good talker. I've always been relatively funny. I've always found a way to get my in, and I've always had a sort of innate sense of what I should say and what I shouldn't. It's very possible that a good deal of my confidence comes from, a misshapen prefrontal cortex, and that's why I can't give perfect advice for this type of thing. But I'm also incredibly insecure. There are also a great deal of things I'm incredibly insecure about. Confidence and insecurity are not mutually exclusive. In fact, I would imagine that they're actually bedfellows. They're very closely related to one another. Even my taking the piss out of myself, making fun of myself, making myself look silly or goofy, all of that is a measurement of me sort of playing a little bit of a dance with my own sense of self. And you need to do that. You need to hold yourself at two values, like atoms smashing together in a nuclear reactor or something. You need to have the part, there is a part of me that feels that I like to think I'm genuinely right and I'm genuinely doing the right thing. And then there's another part of me that likes to feel like I am a complete moron and I'm ignorant about everything and there's no way I can know anything better than anyone else. And I take those two things and I smash them together, and the elements that release from that event causes my personality to come up through the cracks. You have to acquire a sense of yourself, and you have to try to achieve the things that you want to achieve for yourself. And by doing so, you will ideally discover who you are. You may not like what you discover, and you may have to mask certain things and twist certain things, and you should be at work on yourself. You may have to be ashamed often. You may have to address yourself in a negative verbiage. My internal dialogue is very binary. It's harsh. I am either incredibly high on myself or horrifically hard on myself, where the things I say to myself I really wish I didn't say. And I oscillate between those two positions. And there are times where I go a very long time without hearing the other voice. But all of this is to say that confidence is really just the presentation of all the things that make up my personality and my character. On the one hand, when I go running and I brought my camera on a selfie stick, I felt a great sense of shame and embarrassment. I saw this old lady that used to watch me run when I was much healthier. I swear to God, and I saw her out of the corner of my eye, and I immediately turned around and ran in the other direction. Because I was like, she knows you used to be skinnier. She knows you're fat. Now she's going to grill you, and it's not going to feel good. I literally just ran away. All right? There's nothing confident about that, okay? So, but beneath that layer of insecurity is another part of me that goes, if you have a problem with me or what I'm doing or saying, let's go now. Let's see it out now. You want something to happen now. It's a very intense self-belief and a lion-like aggression that's right below it. And these things have to temper one another. But ultimately, I guess what that person meant, or what anyone may feel uncomfortable about if they're watching this video, it may be purely your appearance. First of all, you're more than your appearance. Let's get that out of the way, right? I mean, that should be obvious. You're far more than your appearance. But also, you have to reconcile the fact that you are not going to be immediately given a great deal of attention when you enter a room, and it may feel very frustrating. People also may just be very mean to you. Although more often than not, I find that people aren't particularly dismissive of people just because of the way they look. There's usually a lot more to it than that. And if you are older and you're consistently wondering about why you lack so much confidence or what's going on or why, you may simply, you may have to get over yourself. The issue may be you. I know far too many people that have lived through far too many horrors. And I put myself, a rung below these people that have been through things where just to lay them all out in a line, you cannot comprehend it. And they find a way through and they find themselves. They don't turn into a puddle and blame everything around them and utterly collapse. This is an option for everyone. And I connect this type of thing to confidence because it has to do with the character of taking possession of yourself and believing in the idea of yourself, because you are only an idea. You are only a vision of yourself. You are only what you do, and before that, you are only how you see you may be. And it's about coming to a place where you can find that version of yourself ideally, or make that person occur in spits and fits and spurts. I'm rarely my idealized version of myself. In fact, the vast majority of the time, I'm a version of myself that I am deeply, deeply unhappy with. But periodically, a version of myself comes out, the kind that I would like to be, the version that I think I am, or that I hope to be, and they poke their head up, and I get to be that thing I see myself as for a little bit. And then I end up failing, and it goes back away, it falls away, it goes back inside of me. So confidence, the first thing I always think when I think of someone that feels very socially concerned, and I'm not talking about people that have genuine, severe psychiatric disorders that make it difficult for them to socialize. That's not it. If you think that's what I'm talking about, then it's like you're thinking too deeply into this. But if you also may be deciding that those things are true for you when they are not. It may be that you were handheld throughout the entirety of your life and you reached a point where you actually just cannot look at yourself critically because any form of self-criticism completely annihilates you, in which case you're actually not socially awkward, you're just a narcissist that's manipulating themselves, and that's a whole other form of trouble. You have to accept what you are and also accept that you have a hand in what you are. This is the nature of being. This is the nature of coming to terms with yourself. If I found out tomorrow I had like a 30-year-old son, I don't know, it would be impossible, obviously, and they were living in a basement, in that cliche generalization, obviously, they could just be living a normal life, but they were a basement-dwelling type that was leaning towards incredibly nihilistic, misanthropic, extremely one-sided views of themselves and the world. If you cannot rationalize first past those philosophies, which are purely self-destructive and are usually just a form of hatred that you're taking from yourself, that you feel about you, and you're spitting it out in the world, I don't know what I would tell them other than I don't know. Let's read some great novels. Let's see some great films. Let's see something that can reflect upon you the shared nature of existence and the shared struggle of coming to terms with oneself. This is the beauty of a great novel, the beauty of a great film. We are meant to share these things and interpret them in our own way, and yet feel the consequence of their beauty together. All of these things are incredibly difficult to discuss with any real precision. So, in the end, I think the best I can tell you is that confidence is a bit of a mystery. And it's also an amalgamation of a lot of things. And I guess that isn't fun because it's not an easy answer. And sure, there are certainly guides and tips maybe you could follow to better yourself or to better understand why you should or shouldn't be confident in every given scenario. But I can tell you that I got to the place that I am through hard work and through incredible struggle and a great deal of trauma and a great deal of suffering. And often that's a requirement. And just the same, it's not at all, because it's like you don't need to actually be in pain to learn or to fix yourself. Those aren't, it's a very romanticized view of reality that isn't actually real. At the very least, my greatest recommendation for anyone that doesn't feel confident is to first ask yourself if you are taking responsibility for yourself, and if you are doing what you can do to make yourself worthy of your own love and worthy of your own participation in your own growth. I guess it's not a very sexy answer, and it's not very fun. And yeah, I mean, I'm running out of steam with today. I ran out of steam today. I tried too many times. I failed too many times. It's one of those days. And I'm gonna dread posting this one just because I want them to be better. But you know what? If you make a video every day, this is just gonna happen. It's just gonna happen. So I have to suck it up. This is today's video, day 39. Thank you very much for everything, and I will see you again tomorrow, without a doubt. Without a doubt.